Welcome to the unofficial start to summer, everyone. I'm your host, Jim Hamill, and this is Pocono Mountains Podcast. Over the past dozen episodes, we've traveled through time on trains, in museums, and even visited some waterfalls, as well as small towns in the Poconos. Now we deserve a well-earned break. How about a cold one? Brewed right here in the Poconos? Yes. We're hitting the Pocono beverage trail and breweries on this edition of the podcast. So pull up a bar stool, grab some bar snacks, and we'll cheers to the beers that make the Poconos such a great spot to experience craft breweries any time of year. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions, with 2,400 square miles of rivers, lakes, forest mountains, and historic downtowns, as well as iconic family resorts. It's the perfect getaway. You can always find out more on PoconoMountains.com or watch Pocono Television Network streaming live 24/7. That's streaming on Roku devices and Amazon Fire TV now as well. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos here in Pennsylvania. Subscribe to Pocono Mountains Podcast and please leave a review and comment on whichever platform you listen. Now for Chris and Ashley dropping in at Wallenpaupack Brewing Company in Hawley with the brewmaster Logan for some award-winning beers and some tasty food as well. Then Chris catches the folks at Pocono Brewery Company for their wood-fired pizzas and frosty brews. And then Chris sits down with Tripp at Barley Creek Brewing Company, which also distills spirits. Cheers, everyone.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching PTN, and as you know, this is the Pocono Television Network here with Miss Ashley. So happy to see all of you again. First of all, big shout out to the Lodge at Woodlock, John Kiesendahl and his team. Amazing folks. They treated us like gold. Thank you so much. They'll do the same for you. I, unfortunately, not by John Kiesendahl and Woodlock, but by someone else, was unceremoniously cast aside in talking about that SPOB. I don't know who did that.
I brought in the expert. That would be me.
That would be her. But guess what? You'll be able to see it. You'll love it. Ashley did a wonderful job. We encourage you to watch that. Just a personal note, John Kiesendahl was one of the folks who really was, he and his family were very, very integral in tourism in the Pocono Mountains, so you gotta watch it. Right now, we are at Wallenpaupack Brewing Company with Logan. Logan is the head brewmaster. IPAs right now, big thing. I don't pretend to know about it, that's why Logan's here. Logan, tell us, what is an IPA? What does that mean?
So an IPA stands for India Pale Ale, and they actually came about when the British would brew beer and ship it to India. They added more hops to preserve the beer. So nowadays, IPAs are very hop forward. You'll get a lot of citrus notes out of them usually, but there's a whole myriad of flavors that you can get from hops today.
So what do you think is the fascination with people liking craft brews and IPAs? If you had to say that, what do you think it is?
Anything people are drinking, they're trying to go for more flavor. They want to enjoy what they're drinking. It's not just, all right, I'm gonna have a couple and go to bed.
Well, and I think that's interesting because you are the recipe developer here, right? So I love that title. Talk to us a little bit about what that means.
We all talk in our staff meetings every week and we decide what kind of styles we want to brew. And then I go back and I research styles if I don't know them as well, or a lot of stuff. I've been brewing for a little over 3 years. So at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, they did a beer competition this year and we won 4 awards actually, which was fantastic for us, very surprising.
That's incredible.
It's awesome for us.
And one of the awards you were speaking about was using all of Pennsylvania ingredients, right?
Correct.
Which I think that's pretty cool.
So the PA Preferred Legacy Award was open to anybody who used mostly Pennsylvania ingredients in a beer. We actually used all Pennsylvania ingredients. We used hops from Hop Barons over in Honesdale and malt from Deer Creek Malt House down near Westchester. So.
Okay. Oh wow! So and how many categories were competitive? You told us the number.
I believe there were 14 different beer styles with like 156 beers entered or something like that.
So not only have the IPAs kind of jumped on the bandwagon, but I don't want to be stereotypical here, but I think women have too, right? Really coming out and probably appreciating all the different types of beers that there are now. And here at your brewing company in particular, they're very unique, right? So you as a recipe developer, you make them, and it's kind of, I mean, it's for Wall & Paul Pack Brewing Company, right? So they can only find that here.
There's so many options out there now. You have to do your own thing, and people will gravitate towards it.
Sure.
So we try to do certain hop combinations to get a particular flavor or aroma. A lot of people, women in particular, coming in just trying new styles that they've never tried.
All right, let's talk about that for a minute then. Give me some unusual recipes that we can only find here.
Right now, we're actually doing a lot of barrel-aged beer,
Okay.
which is where we take used spirit barrels,
Like
usually
a whiskey
like
barrel,
bourbon
vodka.
or
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
red wine, stuff like that. And we've actually seen a really, overwhelmingly positive reaction to our barrel-aged beers.
Wow.
I think some of those beers pick up wine characteristics, so
Okay.
they've actually been very good, gateway beers.
I was just going to say gateways is probably a great word to use.
for
Sure.
people that they enjoy wine, they're not really beer drinkers, but you get some of those oaky notes, the vanilla, and the red wine barrels obviously really impart some nice red wine characters.
Sure. So you have about 3 to 4 IPAs on tap, right, at one time.
Correct.
And then how often do your flavors change? How often will you change your taps?
So we're always rotating taps.
Okay.
We distribute over in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area quite a bit.
Right.
So our batches move pretty quick, which has been great for us here to really keep everything fresh. Because you come here, you have food, some places you go to, it gets kind of old. You don't want to go back as often.
Sure.
So it's huge for us to be able to rotate them.
Well, I always love to throw my opinion out there really fast, and I do love, number one, it is spotless and clean in here. Okay, so that is
Very much
always
so.
number one. That was the first thing I noticed. Second, they do have a patio outside, so when the weather permits, you can go outside and enjoy that. They do have games that you can play. Kids are welcome, so in case that was a question, kids are absolutely welcome here, which I think is important to know.
And last question though, because we were kind of talking about this. What do you like best about being the head brewmaster?
Being the head brewer is awesome. Honestly, I've been brewing for a little over 3 years. This is my 3rd brewery, so every other place I was either an assistant or just a shift brewer. So you don't really get that creative freedom,
Sure.
the recipe development.
Right.
I've never been able to do that professionally. So to be able to come here, and then now I get to see people out in our tap room drinking beer that I came up with, and it's just a great feeling. They're enjoying it with their friends and their family, and it's just awesome.
Well, and the great thing too is you heard it. There have been a number of awards that Wall & Paul Pack Brewing Company has achieved, and Logan has been a big part of that. We're proud to have him here in the Pocono Mountains, along with Wall & Paul Pack Brewing Company. So for Ashley, I'm Chris. You're watching PTN, the Pocono Television Network. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning back in. This is PTN, the Pocono Television Network. We're so happy to have you here with us. We're at Pocono Brewery Company right here in 611 in Stroudsburg, PA, and it is a great place to be. We're with Jean-Luc. He is the owner. We've been talking to Jean-Luc for, a few hours, and we've been here visiting, and we just had a little bit of pizza. It was amazing. He told us a lot of great stories that we want to tell you right now. So Jean-Luc, first tell us about your pizza. It's amazing. What's the secret?
Tradition is the secret. We make our pizza in a traditional Italian-style pizza. It is wood-fired, the way pizza should be. A high temperature and traditional quality ingredients is what brings together a really, really solid product.
And isn't it really fast too, right? From
Yeah.
once it's ordered and your client guest gets it, how long does that take? It seems like lightning.
The pizza is prepared in about a minute and it's cooked in less than a minute in the oven. It's 1200 degrees in there and it's open flame, so you get nice char on the dough with a nice crispy body, and it's cooked like that.
And it's awesome. Trust me, a few of us had maybe more than one piece, but it was great. But that's
Just
not
a little bit.
Just a little bit. But that's not the only thing. Tell us about your IPAs. You were telling us some great stories, so I'm going to leave that all up to you because they were awesome. Tell us about your IPAs.
Well, it's not just about the pizza, of course. We're a brewery. We brew all of our own beers. We have 10 to 15 beers on tap at any time, and we brew 20 to 30 beers throughout the year seasonally. We like to get a lot of our ingredients locally, and we like to name and design our beers around our local Pocono area. One of my favorite beers, and our guest's favorite beers, is the Wally Wilson. It's named after Lake Wallenpaupack, so short-named Wally, and the city of Wilsonville that was flooded in the making of Lake Wallenpaupack. So it floods the taste buds with hops.
That's a cool story, and you have some secrets there maybe for the future. I don't know if we want to divulge them or not, but he told us you're going to have to tune in again or come up and visit to find out what those are. But tell us about where you're at too, because you're not only in Stroudsburg, right? You have another operation. Tell us about that one.
Well, we're here in Swiftwater at our main location, and then we have our second location in the Lehigh Valley Mall.
You're really devoted to the family-friendly atmosphere. Tell us a little more about that.
It's all about the family. We have large tables to take on any size group at any time, and we create that family-friendly environment with kids games for you at the table, as well as really great craft beer and a full bar for the adults, and it kind of just brings everybody together to have a really good time.
And I think the cool thing is, Jean-Luc, you're right here. So you visit the guest, you make sure that everything is running correctly, you supervise everything, your hand is in it, which is, you could tell you have a passion for this product, and it's very well done and the quality is very high. But in our last few minutes here, tell us what's next for Pocono Brewery Company.
We just opened a winery, Pocono Winery Company. At the moment, it's here at our main location in Swiftwater, but we're working on a third location where we're going to produce most of our wines. And that's our future, third and more locations to come.
Jean-Luc, thank you so much for hosting us here. You guys have been great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And we just want to come back in the future many times. We know that this is going to be one of the hallmarks and jewels within the Pocono Mountains, and we're so happy to be here. And I think you're going to be seeing a lot of things coming from the Pocono Brewery Company in the future. We'll be tuning in and we'll be talking to Jean-Luc and hopefully coming back to visit. So from everyone here at PTN, the Pocono Television Network, we're so happy to have you. Thanks for watching.
And from our family to your family, cheers from Pocono Brewery Company.
Hi folks, you're watching the Pocono Television Network. Thanks for tuning in. We're so happy to have you today. We're also very happy to be at Barley Creek. This is one of the staples and legacy properties here in the Pocono Mountains. If you are here, you have to stop by. It's one of the places that I have on my list, always checked off. It should be on yours too. But we're so happy to have the owner of Barley Creek here, Trip, and Trip is a legacy to say the least. Trip, thanks so much for having us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much for coming, and thanks for running a good show. I love watching your show on TV. It gives everybody an idea of what you can do in the Poconos beyond just have a good vacation. Now you can know where to go and have a good vacation.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's what it's all about. And we have millions of people that visit here every year, year in and year out. And one of the things we always talk about is those people can meet the entrepreneurs like you. Tell us how you got started. I always think that's so fascinating.
So I was a banker in the beginning of time, and I've always wanted to move back to where I grew up. I graduated Pocono Mountain High School, and I've always wanted to open up my own business. And as an entrepreneur, I looked at some of the businesses that weren't here, and as a former banker of a British bank, I knew what good beer was. So I thought, well, let's open up a brewery because there's already too many candle shops. And sure enough, we were the first microbrewery restaurant in the Poconos since Prohibition. And after that, we kept adding. So we opened in '95 and haven't stopped growing since. And we haven't stopped having fun since.
Wow, I didn't know you were the first one since Prohibition.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So you started with beer, right?
Started with beer. In fact, when we opened up, we could only sell our beer. 1 year after we opened up in '96, the laws changed, and we applied for a liquor license so we could sell other people's beer. And then we kept perfecting our craft. Right now we have about 12 of our beers on tap, but we also have a number of Pennsylvania guest beers. And we also have a couple of nationally brewed beers in bottles that we hide and charge too much for.
But that's not the only thing. IPAs are not the only thing, right? Because you started to do some other things.
So yeah, IPAs, India Pale Ale, stouts. We have all sorts of different styles of beers within those various categories of ales and lagers. And the newest, I don't want to call it a fad, but some of my younger staff are really into sours, and which I think are kind of fascinating. But they're doing very well with some of my millennials and youngers. And then our newest entree into a craft distilling. And we've got a very small boutique distillery that is, it was too small the day we bought it. And we're doing very well with that. And we're having a lot of fun giving tours and, you know, giving people an opportunity to go ahead and taste something manufactured right here in the Poconos.
And also, too, your food is amazing.
So if you're a restaurateur and you're looking at the big picture, you want your chef to believe that the food is the most important thing. And then you want your server or your front of the house, your maitre d', to believe wholeheartedly service is the most important thing. And then I personally love atmosphere. This is a handcrafted post and beam timber frame building that this old house, famous people, Benson Woodworking, did. I believe the atmosphere is really the most important. As the linchpin of all this, I believe each one of those people are right. I want a photo finish. I want my food guys to think it's the most important. I want my servers to think that's the most important. I want the atmosphere to work.
So Trip, I wish we had all day to talk, but tell me what's next for, in the final few minutes we have here, what's next for Barley Creek? I know the tasting room, we actually featured that. What's going on with all that?
So Barley Creek is growing. We've got the ability to go ahead and get 4 or 5 more licenses from the licenses that we have out into the market. So right now, this particular location is pretty crowded. And so the tasting room is our next venture into figuring out where Barley Creek can go ahead and make a difference and make people smile with our what I call our product. And our product is fun. It's a third place. You know, you've got home, you've got work. Let's create that third place where you want to go and be part of.
And you know, a lot of people say that that's what they really are, but I think, Trip, at Barley Creek, honestly, you've really created that here. I mean, I live very close to here, and I've come here once or twice after work, and it's just, you get the family feeling. It's so amazing. The food is great, the people are great, and you treat your employees and your team members so well because they've been here for a long period of time. They know how to treat the customer. So, folks, if you are here in the Pocono Mountains, you have to visit Barley Creek, take some stuff home with you, some of the great spirits and products that he produces, and remember that this is the place to visit. So for Trip, I'm Chris Barrett for PTN, the Pocono Television Network. We thank you for watching.
There are a lot of great spots to catch some craft brews in the Poconos. One of my personal favorites is Here and Now Brewing Company in downtown Honesdale. The owners have created an amazing space inside a former Woolworth Five and Dime. They're brewing some delicious saisons and IPAs and more, along with serving up some mouth-watering pizzas made from scratch with some whimsical, seasonal, and local flavors. We hope to see you there or any of those spots along the Pocono Beverage Trail. Want to learn more? Head to PoconoBeverageTrail.com. Thanks again for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. You can subscribe to us anywhere podcasts are available and leave a review and or comment.
The Pocono Mountains is an amazing maze of trails, ones that you can get lost in for 1, 2, maybe even 3 days and just do whatever you want. Take the time to experience our microbrews, wines, and indomitable spirits. After all, it takes a strong spirit to make strong spirits. Our beverages are strong, just like us. Feel the comfort again when you visit the Pocono Mountains. Find us at PoconoMountains.com.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm Jim Hamill. Now for a Pocono Mountains Podcast Extra, a recent story from our monthly program, Pocono Mountains Magazine, about several other spots on the Pocono Beverage Trail, including Silverback Distillery and Blue Ridge Winery. Brianna Strunk serves up the story.
If you love craft beverages, whether you live in the Poconos or are just visiting, you have to experience the Pocono Beverage Trail. It's made up of nearly 20 wineries, breweries, and distilleries, each with a unique story to share. First up, Blue Ridge Winery. In 2010, Randy and Tiffany Dietrich were on a trip in Oregon. They went to dinner one night, and that experience changed their lives.
And a waiter walks up to us and goes, "Would you guys like a glass of wine?" And we go, "Sure, why not? Let's go for it."
They weren't wine drinkers. In fact, Randy never tried wine until his early 30s. But that glass at that Oregon restaurant sparked an idea.
We're like, wow, this is great. I wonder if we can grow grapes on our property.
When the couple got home, they went to work studying winemaking and turned their sprawling Saylorsburg property into a vineyard.
And then after that, all of a sudden we're going, wow, we have so much wine that we should actually open a winery in the basement of our house.
They eventually quit their careers in the medical field and built Blue Ridge Winery on their land.
It's one of those things where you jump and then you build the ground to land on.
Today, Blue Ridge offers 40 different world-class wines. The wine labels, just as impressive.
So if you look close, there's actually 2 little birds on the label. And when Randy and I designed them, those 2 little birds are supposed to represent him and I.
Guests can relax in the tasting room, outside on the wraparound deck, or even in the vineyard.
Not only can you experience the wine, but you can experience the grapes this close. You can be right in it. And it's just, it's magic.
Also magic, the underground experience. Venture 14 feet below earth to enjoy a 5-course meal paired with wines. The chandeliers are made of weeping cherry trees, which Randy and Tiffany dug up themselves.
It takes about 200 hours to build one, and it truly is a tree converted into an upside-down chandelier hanging from the ceiling. It's got the real Swarovski crystals. It's authentic to the core.
Much like Blue Ridge, the idea for Silverback Distillery was also born during a trip when Christine Riggleman and her husband Denver visited a distillery in Europe.
Christine caught the distilling bug on a family trip to Scotland, and on the way back told Denver she was going to be a distiller, and he said, "Right on, let's do it."
Today, Christine runs Silverback Distillery with her daughters. Together, they're breaking barriers in a male-dominated industry.
Bourbon and whiskey, especially in America, has been targeted at and thought of as like an old man's drink, and I don't think that's the case.
Christine strives to make an approachable spirit that everyone can enjoy. In fact, this sweet and flavorful honey rye is Silverback's best seller.
And I think that's totally different than some of what you get out of Kentucky and in the big industry players, where it's all focused on the most intense, the most kind of enthusiast style whiskey.
When women in bachelorette parties stop in for a tasting, they leave with a new outlook.
They're like, oh yeah, okay, I could see myself drinking this.
And Christine's creations are the real deal. In 2019, Silverback took home gold at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival, beating out the industry's top dogs.
Goes to show that like not only can craft compete with some of the bigger names in the industry, but also that, you know, female master distillers, you know, you got to be on the lookout for them. They're coming for the big guys, you know.
Blue Ridge Winery and Silverback Distillery are both part of the Pocono Beverage Trail. You can hire transportation or hit the trail on your own time at your own pace. But you can find more information on PoconoBeverageTrail.com.
Wallenpaupack Brewing Company, Here and Now Brewing Company, Pocono Brewery Company, and Barley Creek Brewing Company, just a handful of the amazing craft brew pubs we have for you to experience on your next trip to the Poconos. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Pocono Mountains Podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. Come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. Book your trip today.